Hello, very beautiful community. Happy Sunday, and we'll have just a very small chat from bed about the North Korean situation. North Korea is alleged to be sending some troops to help the Russians out, whether it be in Kursk or in Ukraine. The Russian Ministry of Defense, on one of its Telegram platforms, said, "Here is the news," and below with a gap asked, "Feeling scared? Question mark, question mark, question mark." And of course, it's us who are supposed to be scared, but the truth is that any sane, politically sane Russian citizen would be absolutely terrified, but not in the desired sense. They'd be terrified that there is this tyrant in the Kremlin who's been corrupted and co-opted by power, started throwing about rockets in Eastern Europe, imperially invaded Russia's neighbor, got re-invaded back, and now is getting help from the most humanly ghastly regime on earth. That's scary, whichever way you look. Now, politically, what's curious in the information environment is that this story is getting a lot of oxygen because both Ukraine and Russia are interested in pushing it. For the Russians, the story says, look, we can keep doing this. We don't even have to mobilize. We can draw some resources from North Korea. Before it was ammunition, now it's human bodies, even though it's in tiny quantities. But we can just keep doing it. So the longer the war goes on, the more it will be advantage Russia however you cut it. And we know that you in the West already suspect that that's true. So we're just trying to re-emphasize this. So just know that we can keep and keep going here. Ukraine's pushing this for two reasons. One, the least important reason is, look, Russia is weak. They're scared to mobilize. They've had to take some of these soldiers from North Korea who we don't know what their level of training is. Maybe military experts can answer that question. That regime is a kind of a terrifying paradigm of political prison. But that's where the Russians are reaching for. Look at how desperate they are. That's the second argument. So Russia is weak and is trying to improvise its way in, sustaining itself in the war. But the main argument is this is a big escalation, and what are you going to do in the West? Right? Come on. What are you going to do? Now, if your question is seriously, why don't we send NATO troops in? And I've noticed a few people asking that. And of course, the answer is just going to come along the two lines that we have endlessly discussed. One is the legitimate line about escalation management, but the second is a semi-legitimate line about not having a strategy toward this conflict. How will the North Koreans feel about this? Well, obviously it's for military experts to speculate what level of training they have and so on, but there is certainly a set of questions about adapting to a peculiar environment. I spent some time with Tongan Iraq vets. Tonga ended up sending some of its royal guard to Iraq because it got its knickers in a pickle, cooperating with Al-Qaeda. That was part of the reason they had to do it, as far as I recall. And these men just said, I had no idea where I was, and I found all of it extraordinarily strange, like another planet. Now, another question is about loyalty and morale, because the Russian soldiers are in Ukraine not because they know the reason for the war. They're there with a kind of a motto of inferred justification. We are here because hopefully Mr. Putin has some reason for us to be here, even though we don't know what it is. And then over and above that, of course, there is profound, discontent and resentment about various ways the Russian military is run. I don't get ahead of this kind of remark, right? Because it's always about equalizing what's going on the Ukrainian side. How well are they doing? And that always has to be a relative question. You can't talk about the sort of dysfunction or weakness on one side without relativizing it. But how will the North Korean soldiers relate to this situation where even the Russian soldiers do not obviously have a motivation? Moreover, the Russian soldiers are potentially open to various kinds of racism toward these folks. And moreover, there was something else I was just thinking about and I've forgotten what it was. Oh yeah, I mean, given that this is a prison-like, paradigmatically a prison-like political arrangement in North Korea, what will these soldiers do with the sudden access to a level of information they didn't have before? What will be their reaction to that openness, and what new thoughts might they have about not just the war they're participating in, but their own regime back home? I hope to be with you more consistently and more presently as soon as health allows. Thank you so much for this brief chat with me.